Cloudscapes are my poems, and my poems are cloudscapes. It's a term that I came up with myself to describe a very specific way of writing poetry that I most enjoy. It's a very free, associative sort of writing. Basically, you know how on a sunny day you're sitting in the park and you look up at the clouds and you can say, "Ah, look, that one looks like a rabbit," or "Ah, look, that one looks like a train." Well, cloudscapes as a type of poetry is about just picking up the pen and the paper and just writing, "This moment feels like this." And just trying to go with the flow as much as possible, and don't doubt what you're writing and don't think about any rules of poetry. Just write with imagery and emotion and whatever just kind of flows to say, this is kind of what this moment feels like. Like, that cloud isn't a train, you know, it just happens to look like it from this angle. Well, this moment isn't really like this, it just happens to feel like it from this angle. And about the only rule I have with my cloudscapes is you don't go back and rework them afterwards. It's about trying to capture that moment when you sit down to write, and afterwards you're no longer in that moment, so you know you can't really recapture that same feeling to improve on it. So you've got to harness that desire to write and that ability to capture the moment as much as possible. And I've been doing that type of poetry for many years now, and for many years I just scribbled them in the margins of notebooks, you know, just little kind of ditties just to capture that feeling of that moment. And at times I've tried to write them in moments where I couldn't find any other way to express myself, and they're some of my favourite cloudscapes because some of them are quite raw and quite brutal, but others are very hopeful. They're often very abstract, and no one else, I always kind of feel a bit like they're written in code. I understand exactly what I mean by them, but they're not really an attempt at communication, they're purely expression, so quite often, you know, they're a bit opaque to other people, which I kind of like, you know, it's always kept them quite personal to me. But recently I've been trying to write to be read, which is a slightly different form, because it's not about just capturing that moment, it's about capturing how you want that moment to be released later. It's about how you want to look back at that moment, so it's kind of taking the future into account with the present, which I think is a necessary step, because if you're constantly just writing in the moment, that's great, but I kind of nowadays feel like more often I am thinking about the future a bit more often as well, and a sense of the present's impact on the future has become sort of ingrained in my writing anyway, so for a little while I was struggling with that because I was kind of resisting it, but instead I've decided to embrace it and decide that every moment that you capture is captured to be relived at a later date, so that's an intrinsic part of capturing the moment, so yeah, it's better to absorb that and to write with that. Alright, I'm gonna close that now, but yeah, if you're on KTV, there's a little link, a row of links across the top, and one of them says Cloudscapes, and if you click on that, I'll bring you to this video, and then down there there'll be a list of all the different poems that I've read out for my new website. So yeah, hope you guys enjoy, and that's what a cloudscape is.